The mahogany door to my father's office had never felt heavier. I stood outside Richard Blackwood's executive suite on the 47th floor, my hand trembling against the brass handle. Through the frosted glass, I could see his silhouette, rigid, unmoving, like a king waiting to pass judgment. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Another message from Michael, asking if I was okay. I didn't answer. How could I explain that in the next 5 minutes, I would either walk out as the heir to a billion-dollar empire, or as nothing at all? I pushed open the door. My father didn't look up from the contract on his desk. At 63, Richard Blackwood was a monument to old money and older values. Silver hair perfectly combed, a Tom Ford suit that cost more than most people's cars, and eyes that could calculate your net worth before you finished saying hello. "Sit," he said, still not looking at me. I remained standing. Something in me, perhaps the part that had already made my choice, refused to obey. Finally, he looked up. His gaze was ice. "I assume you've reconsidered this foolishness with the teacher." "Michael isn't foolishness," I said, surprised by the steadiness in my voice. "I love him." My father's jaw tightened. "Love." He said the word like it was a disease. "You're 28 years old, Alexandra. You've been groomed since birth to take over Blackwood Industries. 60,000 employees. $3 billion in annual revenue. And you want to throw it away for a man who teaches high school English. He shapes young minds. He makes a difference. He makes $38,000 a year." The words exploded from him. "I've had him investigated, Alexandra. Do you know what your precious Michael is worth? He has $18,000 in student loan debt. He lives in a rent-controlled apartment in Queens that I wouldn't use for storage." My hands clenched into fists. Money isn't everything. My father stood, walking to the floor-to-ceiling windows. "No, money isn't everything. Legacy is everything. Duty is everything. The Blackwood name is everything." He turned to face me. "And I will not watch you destroy 3 generations of work for an infatuation. It's not an infatuation. We've been together for 2 years. 2 years. He laughed, bitter and cold. "I've had business partnerships longer than that. This is what you don't understand, Alexandra. Men like him, they see women like you as a meal ticket, a way out of their mediocre lives. Michael doesn't even know how much money we have," I said. I never told him. The look my father gave me was pure contempt. "Then you're an even bigger fool than I thought." He walked back to his desk and picked up a leather folder. "I'm going to make this very simple for you. In this folder is your inheritance. Controlling shares of Blackwood Industries. Access to the family trusts. The penthouse, the Southampton estate, all of it." He held it out to me. "Take it and end this relationship. Today. Or," the pause stretched like a chasm. "Or," I whispered, "or I will disown you. Completely. You'll be removed from the will, removed from the company, and removed from this family. You'll have nothing. No safety net, no trust fund, nothing but the clothes on your back and the poor choices you've made." My heart hammered against my ribs. This was it. The moment that would define everything. I thought about Michael's laugh, the way his eyes lit up when he talked about his students, the tiny apartment that felt more like home than this glass tower ever had. Then I thought about the life I'd always known, the security, the certainty, the weight of a legacy I'd never asked for but always carried. "I need time," I said. "You have 60 seconds. "That's not." 55 seconds. The room tilted. Everything I'd ever known was balanced on the edge of a knife, and my father was the one holding the handle. "Why are you doing this?" My voice cracked. "I'm your only daughter. Which is precisely why I can't let you make this mistake." 40 seconds. I pulled out my phone. Opened my messages. Michael's last text stared back at me. "Whatever happens, I'm proud of you." He knew. Somehow, he'd always known this moment would come. 30 seconds, Alexandra. My finger hovered over the call button. I could phone Michael right now, end it in a 30-second conversation, and walk away with everything. Or I could choose love and walk away with nothing. The choice should have been impossible. But as I looked at my father's face, hard, unyielding, treating me like just another business transaction, I realized something. This wasn't really about Michael at all. This was about whether I would spend the rest of my life as Richard Blackwood's daughter, or finally become my own woman. "I'm sorry," I said, pocketing my phone. For just a second, something flickered in my father's eyes. Hope maybe. Or the expectation of victory. "You're ending it?" he asked. I met his gaze. "No. I'm leaving." The folder slammed onto the desk. "Then you are no longer my daughter. Get out of my office. Get out of my building. And don't ever use the Blackwood name again." "Gladly," I said, though the word tasted like ashes. I turned toward the door, each step feeling like I was walking through water. This was it. No more safety net. No more family. Just me and the choice I'd made. You'll regret this, my father called after me. When you're struggling to pay rent, when your little teacher gets tired of poverty, when you realize what you've thrown away, you'll regret this. I paused at the door, my hand on the handle. Maybe, I said. But at least I'll have chosen it. I walked out and didn't look back. The elevator ride down felt like a descent into a new life. 47 floors of saying goodbye to everything I'd ever known. By the time I reached the lobby, my phone was ringing. I looked at the screen, unknown number. I answered. Ms. Blackwood? This is Janet from American Express. We're calling about several declined transactions on your account. It appears your cards have been. I hung up. Of course. My father worked fast. The doorman Michael, different Michael, who'd greeted me every morning for years, looked at me with something new in his eyes. Pity. Word had already spread. In my father's world, information traveled faster than light. I stepped out onto Fifth Avenue. The March wind cut through my blazer. Everything I owned was in the penthouse I no longer had access to. My wallet held $200 in cash and credit cards that no longer worked. My phone would probably be cut off within the hour. For the first time in my life, I was truly alone. I started walking toward the subway, something I hadn't taken in years. People rushed past me, living their ordinary lives, unaware that the heir to the Blackwood fortune was now just another person on the street. It should have terrified me. Instead, I felt something unexpected, something that made my chest expand and my steps quicken. Freedom. I pulled out my phone to text Michael, to tell him I'd done it, that I'd chosen us. But before I could type a word, the screen lit up with an incoming call. The name made my blood run cold, Blackwood Industries Legal Department. What had my father done now? What else could he possibly take from me? I answered, and the lawyer's first words made the entire city disappear around me. Ms. Blackwood, or should I say Ms. Alexandra, you need to come to the office immediately. I stood frozen on the corner of 5th and 53rd, pedestrians flowing around me like water around a stone. I don't work for Blackwood Industries anymore. My father made that clear. This isn't about your employment, Patricia Grant said, her voice sharp. She'd been my father's lead attorney for 15 years. This is about the NDA you signed when you turned 18. You're in violation. My stomach dropped. What? I haven't told anyone anything about. 48 hours ago, Michael Torres was approached by a reporter from the Financial Chronicle. The reporter asked specific questions about Blackwood Industries' acquisition strategy. Questions that only someone with insider knowledge could have prompted. The subway entrance yawned before me like a mouth. Michael wouldn't. Wouldn't he? Patricia's voice was acid. Ms. Alexandra, your father warned you. People like Michael Torres see people like you as opportunities. The NDA you signed carries a penalty of $5 million for breach of confidentiality. We'll see you in court. She hung up. The phone slipped from my hand. I caught it before it hit the pavement, but my fingers had gone numb. $5 million. Michael and a reporter. It wasn't possible. It couldn't be possible. But a voice in the back of my mind whispered, "You've only known him 2 years. Your father knew him for 2 weeks." I called Michael. It went straight to voicemail. I called again. Same thing. A third time, and this time a text came through. Can't talk right now. At a meeting. Everything okay? A meeting. With who? My hands shook as I typed back. Did you talk to a reporter from the Financial Chronicle? The 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Finally, what? No. Why? I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him. But I just walked away from $3 billion for this man. And now my father's legal team was threatening to sue me for $5 million I didn't have because of him. Call me. Now. No response. I descended into the subway, the warm, stale air hitting me like a physical thing. The platform was crowded, and for the first time in my life, I understood what it meant to be invisible. No one looked at me. No one knew me. I was just another woman in designer clothes that would need to be dry cleaned with money I no longer had. The train rattled toward Queens. 25 minutes that felt like hours. I tried calling him twice more. Voicemail both times. By the time I climbed the 3 flights to his walk-up, my heart was a war drum. I knocked. Once. Twice. On the 3rd knock, the door opened. Michael stood there, phone in hand, looking more stressed than I'd ever seen him. His dark hair stuck up in every direction, a sign he'd been running his hands through it. His Columbia University t-shirt was wrinkled. And behind him, on his kitchen table, I could see papers. Lots of papers. Alex, he breathed. I was just about to call you. How did it go with your father? I pushed past him into the apartment. Were you talking to a reporter from the Financial Chronicle? His face went pale. What? Where did you hear? Answer the question. A guy approached me at the coffee shop yesterday, Michael said slowly. He said he was doing a story on educators in New York. Asked about my teaching, my life. I thought it was for some education piece. Did you mention me? I mentioned I was dating someone, yes. I didn't use your name. I never use your name. I pointed at the papers on the table. Then what's all that? Michael's jaw tightened. You going through my stuff now? My father's legal team just called. They're suing me for $5 million for breach of confidentiality. They claim you were fed information about Blackwood Industries. That's insane. Michael moved to the table, shuffling the papers together. But not before I saw what they were. Documents. Contracts. And at the top of one page, a logo I recognized, Chronicle Media Group. My blood turned to ice. Michael, what are those? He didn't answer immediately, and in that pause, something between us cracked. Tell me, I said quietly. He sat down heavily on his threadbare couch, the one we'd spent countless evenings on, talking about everything and nothing. 3 days ago, I got an email from an editor at the Chronicle. They wanted to do a feature on innovative teachers in New York. A full spread, Alex. Do you know what that could mean for my career? For education reform? What does that have to do with my family? Nothing. I swear to God, nothing. I filled out their questionnaire. Background information. They asked about my influences, my inspiration, my life. There was a section about relationships, and I mentioned I was with someone, but I didn't give specifics. I picked up one of the papers. It was a questionnaire, like he said. But my eyes caught on one question. Describe any connections you have to notable New York families or institutions. What did you write here? I asked, pointing. Michael's silence was an answer. Michael. I wrote that my girlfriend came from a prominent business family. That's it. I didn't name you. I didn't name them. I sat down across from him, the weight of the day finally crushing me. My father's investigators would have connected the dots in 5 minutes. Prominent business family. Your age. Your location. They would have known it was me. Then that's on them for digging, not on me for living my life. Michael's voice rose. I'm sorry, Alex, but I didn't ask for any of this. I didn't ask to be investigated. I didn't ask to be the reason you had to choose between me and your family. And I definitely didn't ask to be accused of corporate espionage. They're saying you talked to a reporter about acquisition strategy. I don't even know what that means. He stood pacing the small space. I teach Shakespeare and creative writing. I don't know anything about your father's business. I don't want to know about your father's business. I watched him move, this man I'd chosen over everything, and realized I was looking at a stranger. Not because he'd changed, but because crisis has a way of showing you who people really are. And what I saw was someone who'd filled out a questionnaire for a career opportunity without thinking about the consequences. I believe you, I said finally. Michael stopped pacing. You do. I believe you didn't mean for this to happen. But Michael, my father's legal team doesn't care about intent. They care about results. And the result is that information about me has been connected to inquiries about Blackwood Industries. So what do we do? Before I could answer, my phone rang again. This time, it was a number I recognized. James Chun, my oldest friend and one of the few people at Blackwood Industries who'd always been in my corner. James. Alex, where are you? His voice was tight, urgent. Michael's place. Why? Your father just called an emergency board meeting. He's moving up the succession plan. He's announcing a new heir tomorrow morning. The room tilted. He's already found a replacement. Not a replacement. A merger. Alex, he's arranging a marriage between himself and Catherine Rothmore. I actually laughed. It burst out of me, bitter and sharp. Catherine Rothmore is 35 years old. And she's the CEO of Rothmore Pharmaceuticals. $20 billion in assets. Your father is proposing a merger of the companies and a personal alliance. It's insane, but the board is eating it up. He's spinning it as the deal of the century. Catherine Rothmore. I'd met her at charity galas. Beautiful, brilliant, and ruthless. She'd buried 3 competitors in hostile takeovers before she turned 30. And now my father was going to marry her to replace the daughter who'd disappointed him. When's the announcement? I asked. Tomorrow. 9 a.m. Alex, if you're going to contest this, you need to move fast. There are board members who still support you, but your father is consolidating power by the hour. I walked away, James. I can't just come back. Can't you? His voice dropped. Alex, I know what you sacrificed. But right now, your father is about to sign away everything your grandfather built to a woman who'll strip the company for parts. Is that really what you want? I looked at Michael, who was watching me with an expression I couldn't read. I need to think, I told James. You have 12 hours. After the announcement, it's over. He hung up. The apartment was silent except for the sound of the radiator clanking and the muffled noise of traffic below. Michael and I stared at each other across a distance that felt like miles. You're thinking about going back, Michael said. It wasn't a question. I'm thinking that my father is making a catastrophic decision out of spite. You're thinking that you made a mistake choosing me. That's not. It's okay, Michael said quietly. I get it. $3 billion versus a guy making $38,000 a year. When you actually do the math, it's not even close. The accusation in his voice stung. That's not fair. None of this is fair. He grabbed a stack of student essays from the shelf. I never asked you to give up everything for me. You made that choice. And now, 12 hours later, you're already second-guessing it. My father is about to marry a corporate raider who will destroy his company, I said. That's not second-guessing. That's facing consequences. Your father disowned you. Sued you. Had me investigated like a criminal. And you're worried about his company. Michael set the papers down carefully, too carefully. Go, Alex. If that's where you need to be, go. Just like that. Just like that. He met my eyes. Because I'm not going to be the thing you resent for the rest of your life. I'd rather lose you now than watch you slowly hate me for what you gave up. The worst part was, I couldn't tell him he was wrong. My phone buzzed. Another message from James. Board members are asking questions about your relationship status. If you're single, some of them want to back you. If you're still with Michael, they won't go against your father. Politics, Alex. I'm sorry. I showed Michael the message. He read it, then walked to his door and opened it. You should go. Michael. I mean it. Go home. Figure out what you actually want. Because right now, standing in my apartment, looking at me like I'm a problem you need to solve? This isn't love, Alex. This is a hostage situation. He was right. The realization hit me like cold water. Somewhere in the last 2 hours, Michael had transformed from the person I loved into an obstacle between me and... What? My inheritance? My father's approval? Revenge? I walked to the door. Stopped. I do love you. I know, Michael said. But sometimes love isn't enough. I left. The walk to the subway felt like walking through a dream. My phone kept buzzing, messages from James, from board members, from people I hadn't spoken to in years, all suddenly very interested in my plans. The news about my father and Catherine Rothmore was already leaking. The business world moved fast. I sat on the train, watching the stations blur past, and tried to figure out who I was. Not Richard Blackwood's daughter. Not Michael Torres's girlfriend. Just me. The problem was, I wasn't sure that person existed. My phone rang one more time. A number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Alexandra Blackwood? A woman's voice. Smooth, confident. Who is this? Catherine Rothmore. I think you and I need to have a conversation. My heart stopped. How did you get this number? Your father gave it to me, along with a very interesting file about your recent lifestyle choices. I could hear the smile in her voice. Meet me at 11 Madison Park in 1 hour. Come alone. Because what I'm about to offer you will change everything. The line went dead. I stared at the phone, a dozen questions screaming in my head. But one rose above all the others. What could the woman who was about to replace me possibly want to offer? And more terrifying, why was I already thinking about accepting? If you're listening right now, help me prove something wrong. My mother said I wouldn't even reach 100 subscribers, but I believe stories like this deserve to be heard. Help me show her that these tales matter. Please subscribe, and let's keep breathing life into stories that were never meant to stay silent. Now let's continue. 11 Madison Park gleamed like a jewel box in the night. Through its windows, I could see Manhattan's elite dining on food that cost more than most people's weekly salary. I'd been here dozens of times. Had my 21st birthday in the private room upstairs. But I'd never walked through those doors as anything other than Richard Blackwood's daughter. Tonight, I wasn't sure what I was. The maitre d' recognized me anyway. Ms. Blackwood. Ms. Rothmore is waiting for you in the Art Deco room. Of course she'd reserved the Art Deco room. It was the most private section of the restaurant, designed for conversations that couldn't happen anywhere else. Deals that changed industries. Mergers that shifted power. Proposals that altered destinies. Catherine Rothmore stood when I entered, extending a hand. She was taller than I remembered, maybe 5'10" in heels, with auburn hair pulled back in a style that was simultaneously severe and elegant. Her navy dress probably cost $15,000. Everything about her screamed calculated perfection. Alexandra. Thank you for coming. I shook her hand. Her grip was firm, businesslike. You didn't give me much choice. Everyone has choices. She gestured to the seat across from her. The question is whether we make smart ones. A waiter appeared, poured wine I hadn't ordered, and vanished. Catherine waited until we were alone before continuing. Your father and I are announcing our engagement tomorrow morning at 9. By 9:30, the markets will open to the news that Blackwood Industries and Rothmore Pharmaceuticals are merging. By noon, we'll be the third largest corporation in the pharmaceutical sector. By end of day, we'll control 18% of the generic drug market. She spoke like she was describing the weather. 18% of a market. Billions of dollars. Thousands of jobs. Just another Tuesday. Congratulations, I said flatly. Don't be bitter. It's unbecoming. She took a sip of wine. Your father is a brilliant businessman, Alexandra. But he's getting old. The board knows it. I know it. And frankly, after today's display, so does he. What display? Catherine smiled. He called me this afternoon in a panic. Started ranting about loyalty and betrayal and the weakness of the younger generation. He actually cried, Alexandra. Richard Blackwood. Cried. The image was impossible. My father didn't cry. My father barely blinked. You're lying. Am I? She pulled out her phone, tapped it twice, and turned it toward me. It was a recording. Just audio, but the voice was unmistakable. Threw everything away for nothing. For some poverty-stricken nobody. My only daughter, and she. A sound that might have been a sob. What did I do wrong, Catherine? Where did I fail her? She stopped the recording. Put the phone away. Your father is having a crisis of confidence disguised as a crisis of succession. And in that state, he's making catastrophic decisions. Like marrying you? Oh, the marriage is brilliant, she said. For me. I get controlling interest in a company that's been underperforming for 5 years. I get access to Blackwood's distribution network. And I get to be the woman who saved Richard Blackwood from himself. She leaned forward. But for him? For the company? For the 60,000 people who depend on Blackwood Industries? It's a disaster. Then why are you doing it? Because I'm a capitalist, Alexandra. I exploit opportunities. It's what I do. She paused. But I'm also a pragmatist. And the truth is, I'd rather have you as a partner than your father as a husband. The room seemed to tilt. Excuse me? Catherine pulled out a folder from her bag. This is a contract. Very simple terms. You dump the teacher, make a public statement recommitting to the Blackwood legacy, and reconcile with your father. In exchange, I'll convince him to give you a vice presidency with a clear succession path. You'll be CEO within 3 years. And you? I'll still get my merger. But as a business arrangement, not a marriage. Your father keeps his dignity, you get your inheritance, and I get what I actually want. Access to Blackwood's infrastructure. I stared at the folder. Why would you help me? Because you're better for business than your emotional wreck of a father. She said it like she was commenting on the wine. I've done my research on you, Alexandra. Mit Undergrad. Wharton for your MBA. You spent 2 years turning around the European division when everyone said it was impossible. You increased profits by 40%. You're good at this. I walked away. For love. How romantic. Her voice dripped with disdain. But love doesn't pay salaries. Love doesn't fund pensions. Love doesn't keep 60,000 people employed. Your father was right about one thing. You have a responsibility to the Blackwood legacy. This is your chance to honor it. I picked up the folder, but didn't open it. What about Michael? What about him? Alexandra, be honest with yourself. You've known him for 2 years. How long before the novelty wears off? How long before you resent him for what you gave up? How long before he resents you for what you can't give him? She leaned back. Cut your losses now. Make it clean. He'll recover, and so will you. You don't know him. I know his type. The idealistic teacher. The romantic underdog. Very appealing when you're rebelling against daddy. Less appealing when you're 35 and realize you've built a life with someone who can't afford to build anything at all. My jaw clenched. That's cruel. That's realistic. Catherine signaled the waiter for more wine. Look, I'm not asking you to stop caring about him. I'm asking you to be practical. Michael Torres will be fine. Teachers are resilient. But Blackwood Industries? If your father goes through with this marriage merger in his current state of mind, he'll negotiate from weakness. I'll take him for everything. Is that really what you want your legacy to be? The daughter who was too in love to save her family's company. She was good. I had to give her that. Every word was a precision instrument, designed to cut through emotion and get to the practical bone of the situation. I need to think about it, I said. You have until 8 a.m. tomorrow. After that, I'm marrying your father and the deal is off the table. She stood, placing a business card on top of the folder. One more thing. That lawsuit your father's legal team threatened? The $5 million for breach of confidentiality? That goes away the minute you sign this contract. Poof. Like it never happened. She left me sitting there, alone in the Art Deco room with a folder that contained my future and a glass of wine I couldn't afford. I opened the folder. The contract was exactly as she'd described. Simple. Clean. Legal language that boiled down to, give up Michael, get back everything. There was even a specific clause about the lawsuit being dismissed with prejudice the moment I signed. My phone buzzed. Michael, are you okay? You left weird. Can we talk? I stared at the message for a long time. Then I looked at the contract. Then back at the message. 2 paths. 2 futures. And 10 hours to decide which one I could actually live with. I called James Chun. Tell me the truth, I said when he answered. If I don't come back, what happens to Blackwood Industries? James was quiet for a moment. Catherine Rothmore strips it for parts. Sells off the profitable divisions, shutters the underperforming ones. 5 years from now, the Blackwood name is just a logo on some subsidiary's letterhead. And if I do come back? You fight. You rebuild. You prove your father wrong about everything. He paused. But Alex, coming back isn't the hard part. Staying back is. Can you really spend the rest of your life in that world, knowing what you gave up for it? I don't know, I said honestly. Then maybe you're not ready to come back. After I hung up, I sat in that expensive room, surrounded by the trappings of the world I'd been born into, and tried to figure out what I actually wanted. Not what my father wanted. Not what Michael needed. Not what Catherine Rothmore was offering. What I wanted. The problem was, I couldn't separate those things anymore. Every choice felt like betraying someone, including myself. I texted Michael. I need to see you. Tonight. Your place. His response was immediate, doors open. I took a cab to his apartment, the contract folder burning in my bag. It was almost midnight when I climbed those 3 flights again. The door was indeed unlocked. Michael sat on his couch, still in the same wrinkled t-shirt, a stack of student papers in his lap. Hey, he said softly. Hey. I sat next to him, and for a moment, we just existed together in the quiet. His apartment smelled like coffee and old books. The radiator clanked. Outside, sirens wailed somewhere in the distance. It was nothing like the sterile perfection of the Blackwood penthouse. It felt like home. Catherine Rothmore offered me a deal, I said. Michael's pen stopped moving. What kind of deal? I told him everything. The contract. The vice presidency. The succession path. The lawsuit disappearing. The only condition, ending us. When I finished, Michael set down his papers. You're going to take it? I haven't decided. Alex. He turned to face me. I've been sitting here for the last 3 hours, thinking about what I said earlier. About how love isn't enough. And I was wrong. Love is enough. But only if it's actually love. What are you saying? I'm saying that if you're even considering this deal, then what we have isn't what I thought it was. His voice was steady, but I could see the pain in his eyes. I thought you left your father because you wanted to be free. Because you wanted to choose your own life. But you didn't, did you? You just wanted to prove a point. And now that the point's been made, you're ready to go back. That's not fair. Isn't it? He picked up a piece of paper from the coffee table. It was the questionnaire from the Chronicle. I've been looking at this all night, trying to figure out where I went wrong. And you know what I realized? I didn't do anything wrong. I lived my life. I took an opportunity. I mentioned I had a girlfriend, because I'm proud to have you in my life. That's not a crime, Alex. That's just life. The lawsuit is your father's weapon, not my responsibility. He set the paper down. Here's the truth, I love you. I love you enough to eat ramen for the rest of my life, if it means we're together. I love you enough to live in this apartment and grade papers until midnight and be happy because we're building something real. He paused. But I don't love you enough to be the reason you're miserable. And if you take that deal, even if we stay together, you will be miserable. You'll resent me. Eventually you'll hate me. I could never hate you. Then don't put us in a position where you have to try. I pulled the contract from my bag, held it up between us. If I don't sign this, my father marries Catherine Rothmore. She destroys the company. 60,000 people lose their jobs. And if you do sign it, one person loses his relationship, Michael said quietly. But hey, at least 60,000 people you've never met will be okay, right? That's not. I know it's not that simple. He took my hand. Alex, I'm not going to make this decision for you. I can't. This has to be your choice. But I need you to understand something. If you sign that contract, we're done. Not because I don't love you. Not because I'm angry. But because you'll have chosen a world where I don't exist. And I can't compete with that. My phone alarm went off. I'd set it earlier without thinking. 12:01 a.m. 8 hours until Catherine's deadline. Michael heard it too. You should go, he said. Figure out what you need to figure out. I'll be here. Until 8 a.m., I'll be here. And after? He smiled, sad and soft. After that, I'll still be here. Just not waiting anymore. I wanted to kiss him. To promise him everything would be okay. To tell him I'd made my choice and it was him, it would always be him. But I couldn't. Because I hadn't made my choice. Not really. I left the contract on his coffee table and walked out into the night. The next 7 hours were the longest of my life. I walked Manhattan in the dark, through Central Park, down Fifth Avenue, across the Brooklyn Bridge and back. I thought about my grandfather, who'd built Blackwood Industries from nothing. About my father, who'd spent his life expanding it. About the 60,000 people whose livelihoods depended on decisions made in boardrooms they'd never see. And I thought about Michael sitting in his apartment, probably not sleeping, waiting for a choice I still hadn't made. At 7:30 a.m., I found myself standing outside Blackwood Tower. The sun was rising, turning the glass and steel golden. My father would be in his office already. He was always in his office by 6 a.m. I could go up there right now. Sign the contract. Save the company. Save my inheritance. Save everything my family had built. All it would cost was the one thing I'd chosen for myself. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Alexandra Blackwood? A man's voice this time. Official. Cold. Yes. This is Dr. Michael Reeves from Mount Sinai Hospital. I'm calling about your father, Richard Blackwood. He's been admitted to the cardiac unit. You're listed as his emergency contact. The world stopped spinning. What happened? He had a massive heart attack at 6:47 this morning. We're taking him into emergency surgery now. You should get here immediately. The phone slipped from my hand. For the second time in 24 hours, my entire world had shifted on its axis. But this time, the choice had been taken out of my hands. Mount Sinai's cardiac wing smelled like antiseptic and fear. I'd run the 12 blocks from Blackwood Tower, my lungs burning, my mind screaming the same word over and over. Alive, alive, alive. Whatever else my father was, tyrant, manipulator, judge, he was still my father. And the thought of him dying before we could. What? Reconcile? Fight again? I didn't even know. The nurse at the ICU desk recognized the Blackwood name. Everyone recognized the Blackwood name. Room 447. But he's in surgery. It could be hours. What are his chances? She looked at me with practiced sympathy. The doctor will brief you when she can. Room 447 was a waiting room in everything but name. Catherine Rothmore was already there, still in last night's dress, mascara smudged under her eyes. She looked up when I entered, and for the first time since I'd met her, she looked human. Alexandra. What happened? We were supposed to meet at his office at 6:30 to review the merger announcement. When I arrived, he was on the floor behind his desk. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook around her coffee cup. Paramedics said if I'd been 5 minutes later. She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Where's the doctor? Surgery. Quadruple bypass, they think. Maybe more. Catherine set down her coffee. He was clutching a photograph when I found him. A photograph? She pulled it from her purse. My hands trembled as I took it. The photo was old, the corners worn. It showed my father, maybe 40 years old, holding a little girl on his shoulders. Both of them were laughing. The little girl was me. I'd never seen this picture before. Didn't know it existed. My father wasn't the sentimental type. He didn't keep photographs in his office. Didn't display memories like weakness. But he'd been holding this when his heart gave out. He called me last night, Catherine said quietly. After you left the restaurant. Asked if I'd spoken to you. When I said yes, he went silent for so long I thought the call had dropped. Then he asked if I thought he'd made a mistake. With you. My throat constricted. What did you say? I told him the truth, that he was about to lose his daughter and his company in the same week, and that maybe it was time to decide which one actually mattered. She looked at me. He hung up on me. I assumed he was angry. Now I think he was scared. A doctor in blue scrubs pushed through the double doors. Family of Richard Blackwood? We both stood. I'm Dr. Sarah Kim. Your father is out of surgery. We performed a quintuple bypass. The next 48 hours are critical. Can we see him? I asked. He's in the ICU. Sedated. But yes, one at a time briefly. She looked between Catherine and me. I need to be frank. Your father's heart attack was severe. Even with the surgery, there's been damage. The next few days will tell us if he can recover. And if he doesn't, Catherine's voice was barely a whisper. Dr. Kim's expression said everything her words didn't. Let's take this 1 hour at a time. She led me to the ICU. My father looked small in the hospital bed, a word I'd never associated with him before. Tubes and wires connected him to machines that beeped and hissed. His face was gray. His hands, usually so commanding, lay still on the white sheets. I sat beside him and, for the first time in as long as I could remember, took his hand. I'm here, Dad. No response. Just the machines, keeping rhythm with a heart that had almost stopped. My phone buzzed. Multiple messages, all from the same person, James Chun. Board meeting postponed. Everyone knows about your father. Catherine Rothmore just withdrew her merger proposal. Markets in free fall. Stock down 18% in pre-trading. Alex, people are asking questions. Who's in charge? What happens to the company? You need to make a statement. Now. I looked at my father's still face, then at my phone. The company. Of course. 60,000 employees waking up to the news that their CEO was in critical condition, and no one knew who was running the ship. I stepped out of the ICU and called James. What do I say? I asked. That you're taking temporary control. That Blackwood Industries is stable. That your father is receiving the best care, and the company will continue to operate normally. James, I don't have authority to take control. My father disowned me yesterday. Legally, yes. But the board doesn't know that. As far as they're concerned, you're still the heir apparent. If you walk into that building right now and act like you belong there, most of them will follow your lead. And the ones who don't, let me worry about them. He paused. Alex, this is it. This is your chance to prove your father wrong. To show him that you can lead this company, that you can make the hard choices. But you need to move now. Every minute you're not in that office, someone else is thinking about how to fill the vacuum. I looked back through the ICU window. My father, small and gray and vulnerable. Then I looked at my phone. Messages piling up. The business world, sensing blood in the water. Give me an hour, I told James. You've got 30 minutes. Then I'm telling the board you're on your way. I went back into the ICU, back to my father's bedside. Leaned close. I'm going to the office, I whispered. I'm going to hold your company together. Not because you asked me to. Not because I forgive you for yesterday. But because it's the right thing to do. I squeezed his hand. And when you wake up, we're going to have a very long conversation about what this family actually means. I called Michael from the cab to Blackwood Tower. Hey, he answered. Are you okay? I saw the news about your father. I'm going to the office. I'm taking temporary control of the company. Silence on the other end. Michael, so you're signing the contract? No, there is no contract anymore. Catherine withdrew the merger. I watched the city blur past the window. But the company is in crisis. If I don't step in, it collapses. 60,000 jobs, Michael. I can't just let that happen. I know. His voice was soft. Sad. I've always known. This doesn't mean. It means exactly what it means, Alex. You're going back to your world. The world where I don't fit. You could fit. If you wanted to. As what? Your secret? The boyfriend you hide from the board? The liability you have to explain away at company functions. He laughed, bitter. I've been thinking about this all night. About what you said yesterday, that you chose me. But you didn't really, did you? You chose the idea of rebellion. The idea of freedom. I was just convenient. That's not true. Then prove it. Walk away from that office. Let someone else save the company. Come back here, and let's figure out what our actual life looks like. The cab pulled up to Blackwood Tower. Through the glass doors, I could see the lobby, security guards, the front desk, the elevators that led to the 47th floor. My father's office. My legacy. Or I could tell the driver to turn around. Go back to Michael's apartment. Let the company sort itself out. 60,000 jobs versus one relationship. My father's life's work versus my own happiness. Duty versus love. I can't, I said. I know, Michael said. Goodbye, Alex. He hung up. I sat in the cab for 10 seconds, my phone in my hand, everything inside me screaming to call him back. To choose him. To finally truly choose him. But James was right. This was my chance to prove I could lead. To prove I was more than just Richard Blackwood's disappointing daughter. I paid the driver and walked into Blackwood Tower. The board meeting was chaos barely contained by expensive suits. 12 members, all talking over each other, throwing out opinions and accusations and theories about the company's future. They stopped when I walked in. Gentlemen. Ladies. I took my seat at the head of the table, my father's seat. I'm sure you all have questions. I'm here to answer them. Alexandra, Margaret Torres, the CFO, spoke first. We heard about your departure from the company yesterday. A temporary disagreement with my father. We were in the process of resolving it when he had his heart attack. But legally, Marcus Hayward, head of operations, started. Legally, I am still Richard Blackwood's daughter. I am still the largest individual shareholder after my father himself. And I am the only person in this room who's actually been trained to run this company. I met each of their eyes in turn. My father is in critical condition. He may not survive. That's the reality. The question is, what do we do now? Catherine Rothmore withdrew her merger proposal, Margaret said. The stock is in free fall. Investors are panicking. Then we give them a reason not to panic. I opened the briefing folder James had prepared. Blackwood Industries has weathered storms before. We survived the 2008 crash. We survived the tech bubble. We'll survive this. I looked around the table. But I need to know right now, are you with me or do I need to fight you too? The silence stretched. Then Margaret spoke. What's your plan? First, we release a statement. I'm taking temporary control as acting CEO. The company is stable. Operations continue as normal. Second, we freeze all major decisions until my father's condition is clear. No acquisitions, no sell-offs, no panic moves. Third, we show the market that Blackwood Industries is more than one man. And if your father doesn't recover? Marcus asked. I looked at the photograph Catherine had given me. My father and me laughing. Before everything got complicated. Then I become CEO. Permanently. And I prove that the Blackwood legacy isn't about blood or inheritance. It's about excellence. One by one they nodded. The meeting lasted 3 hours. By the end we had a plan. A statement. A path forward. I spent the rest of the day in my father's office. Now my office, making calls, reassuring investors, steadying the ship. It felt both foreign and familiar, like putting on clothes that almost fit. At 6 p.m., James knocked on the door. Market closed up 2%. The statement worked. People are calming down. Good. Your father's still critical. No change. I know. I've been calling the hospital every hour. James sat down across from me. Michael called the office. Asked the receptionist to pass along a message. My heart stopped. What message? He said. Tell Alex I hope her father recovers. And I hope she finds what she's looking for. Because it isn't me. I stared out the window at Manhattan, at the empire my family had built, at the city that never stopped moving. He's right, I said quietly. It isn't him. What is it then? I touched the photograph on the desk. I don't know yet. But I'm going to figure it out. Over the next 3 days, I lived in 2 worlds. During the day, I was acting CEO Alexandra Blackwood, making decisions that affected thousands of lives, steering a company through crisis. At night, I was just a daughter, sitting beside her father's hospital bed, talking to a man who couldn't hear me. I broke up with Michael. I told him on the second night. You'd probably say you were right, that I'd have come to my senses eventually. But you weren't right, Dad. Michael wasn't the problem. I was. I wiped my eyes. I wanted to be free of you so badly that I mistook rebellion for independence. I thought choosing him meant choosing myself. But I was just choosing against you. The machines beeped their steady rhythm. The company is stable. You'd be proud. Or maybe you'd find something to criticize. That's kind of your thing. I laughed, bitter and sad. I'm good at this, Dad. I'm really good at this. And I hate that it took you almost dying for me to prove it. On the morning of the 4th day, I was in my office when my phone rang. Dr. Kim. Your father is awake. I ran. When I burst into the ICU, my father was sitting up slightly, tubes still connected but eyes open. Alert. He looked at me, and something in his expression cracked. Alexandra. His voice was rough, weak, but it was him. Hey, Dad. The company? Of course. That would be his first question. Stable. Stock is recovering. No one's panicking. He nodded. Then, softer. Catherine told me what she offered you. The contract. I didn't sign it. I know. She told me you chose the company anyway. He reached for my hand, his grip weak but there. You didn't have to. Yes, I did. Not for you. For them. The people who depend on us. And the teacher? I swallowed hard. Gone. My father's eyes closed. A single tear rolled down his cheek. I'm sorry. Those 2 words from Richard Blackwood's mouth were more shocking than his heart attack. For what? For making you choose. For thinking I could control you. For. He struggled for breath. For forgetting that before you were my heir, you were my daughter. I sat beside him, holding his hand, and for the first time in years we were just father and daughter. No company. No legacy. No expectations. Just 2 broken people, trying to find their way back to each other. I need you to do something for me, my father said. Anything. He looked me in the eyes. Find him. The teacher. Apologize. And if he'll forgive you. He squeezed my hand. Choose him, Alexandra. Choose him and don't let anyone, including me, tell you you're wrong. I stared at him. But the company will survive without you. But you won't survive without love. Trust me. His smile was sad. I learned that too late. 2 weeks later, I stood outside a small bookstore in Brooklyn. The sign in the window read, Poetry Reading Tonight, Michael Torres and Friends. I'd called. He hadn't answered. I'd texted. Read but no reply. So I'd come here to this reading he was doing, hoping for. What? Forgiveness? A second chance? Understanding? I walked in. The bookstore was crowded with people I didn't recognize. Teachers, students, artists. Michael's world. Not mine. And there, at the front of the room, was Michael. He was reading a poem, something about cities and choices, and the spaces between what we want and what we need. He looked good. Happy even. Like maybe the last 2 weeks had been better for him than they'd been for me. He saw me. The words faltered for just a second. But he finished the poem, and the crowd applauded. When the reading ended, people swarmed him. I waited in the back, patient, until the crowd thinned. Then I walked over. Alex. Hey. What are you doing here? I wanted to hear you read. That poem was beautiful, Michael. He looked around the bookstore. Yeah. It's been good. Getting back to this. To what matters. The words stung. I deserve that. How's your father? Recovering. He'll need months of rehabilitation, but he's going to be okay. I'm glad. He told me to find you. To apologize. To tell you he was wrong about you. Michael's eyebrows rose. Richard Blackwood admitted he was wrong? Dying has a way of changing perspective. I took a deep breath. Michael, I'm sorry. For everything. For choosing the company over you. For letting my father's opinions matter more than my own heart. For. Stop. He held up a hand. Alex, I've had 2 weeks to think about us. About what happened. And you know what I realized? What? You made the right choice. My heart sank. Michael. Not because I wasn't worth it. I was. I am. He smiled. But because you weren't ready. You were so busy fighting your father that you never figured out who you actually were. And until you do that, you can't really choose anyone. Including me. I know who I am now. Do you? He tilted his head. Who are you, Alexandra Blackwood? I opened my mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. I'm working on it. He laughed, genuine and warm. That's the first honest thing you've said to me in weeks. Can I take you to dinner? Just to talk. Michael looked around the bookstore, at the life he was building without me. Then back at me. Not tonight. Tonight is mine. Tomorrow. Maybe. He touched my arm, gentle. Figure out who you are first, Alex. Then come find me. If you still want to. He walked back to his friends, back to his world, back to a life where I was just a chapter, not the whole story. I left the bookstore and stood on the street corner, watching the city move around me. I'd lost Michael. Maybe forever. But for the first time, I understood what my father had been trying to teach me. Some choices aren't about winning or losing. Some choices are about discovering what you're actually fighting for. I pulled out my phone and called James Chun. I'm coming back to the office. Tomorrow. But on my terms. What terms? I'll run the company. I'll be the CEO my father wanted. But I'm also going to live my life. My way. And if the board doesn't like it, they can find someone else. James was quiet for a moment. Then, about damn time, I walked back toward Blackwood Tower, toward a future that was uncertain and terrifying and entirely my own. And for the first time since this all began, I smiled.